So for my video about the clothing that I'll be wearing, I thought I would start with what I consider to be the rain protection part of my gear. From right to left, I have a pair of REI trail-made rain pants. They're heavier than the Frog Tog outfit that I was wearing last year, but they have zippers up the side of the legs, about a foot up, to allow me to slip them on over my boots. And they're a little more water resistant than the Frog Togs were, and they're a little bit heavier. Next to that, I have a Sea to Summit pack cover for my pack. I got to go a size smaller than I had last year because my pack is down to a 50-liter pack. And then to the left of that, I have an REI Rainier rain jacket. It's got pit zips, and the pockets, when you open them up, also vent. It has worked pretty well in my test so far, both as a windshield to have an extra layer of protection in the heat, but also to keep rain and snow and all that off. It works very well. And then last but not least, up in the upper left-hand corner, are my Hoka Kaha 2 mid-rise GTX boots. I'll admit I've never hiked. I haven't hiked in boots in 20 years. I've been using tennis shoes and joggers and trail runners for the past several years. And then on the AT, I've only used trail runners. But I'm going to be hiking in March, and I know it will be cold and it will likely also be wet. So both the fact that they're mid-rise boots and the fact that they're Gore-Tex GTX coated, I'm hoping helps me both in the wet and cool weather in Virginia, but then also once I get up into the rocks of Pennsylvania later on in that first month. Whether or not the boots work out and the Gore-Tex provides protection without causing my feet to get hot is something I'll have to learn on trail. And Mrs. Data has already been prepped on one of the things that I may want to change out early on will be I may want to swap out the GTX Hoka Kaha 2 boots for the Speed Goat 5s that I have traditionally hiked in. And that's pretty much my rain setup for the start of this hike. And I will probably carry this all the way through the hike, although I'm certain that the boots will probably only I'll probably only wear those until I get through Pennsylvania, and when I go back up to hike further north in that, I'll switch back to Speed Goats. When I get up to Maine later on in the summer, I may switch back to the boots, or I may not, depending on the weather partly and the terrain. So that's it for my rain clothing setup. So here I've laid out the clothing I'll be wearing while hiking. This part of the setup will probably remain the same even once the weather warms up, assuming it does, in the first month. But certainly later on in the trail, this is the basic outfit that I wear when I hike. So I guess sort of from the bottom up, on my feet, I wear a pair of those kind of the Smart Wool under socks, which help to prevent blisters by not having anything rub. And then I wear a pair of Darn Tough boot length merino wool socks on top of those. That two-layer sock approach has worked for me. I've not had a lot of problems with blisters. I carry Leukotape in case I do get some. I've had some small issues, but nothing that's ever taken me off trail or even slowed me up too much. So this part system works for me. I wear a merino wool, or it's a merino polyester blend underwear from REI. I don't hike in the long johns. I don't find I need that much warmth on the bottom. Once I'm out moving, I heat up pretty quickly. Like I'm a warm sleeper, I'm also a warm hiker. I wear a Cool brand hiking pants. I can't remember the name, but I'll research that and put that up in the video here. They're a little bit heavier, but they have a nice arrangement of pockets that I can get to even with a pack on. And I hike in long pants always, not shorts. I don't really care for the scratchiness and stuff that happens when your legs are bare on trail. Some people seem to be fine with that, and I'm sure it's a lot cooler and lighter weight to be hiking in shorts, but I guess maybe partly because I'm 64 years old, and as an old guy, I've always hiked in long pants, so I'm going to keep hiking in long pants unless something dramatically changes for me. All of this gear, by the way, will be up on my lighterpack.com page, which will be in the description of this video. And I'll change that as time goes along, but my kit is pretty well set now, I think, for this hike. So there's not too much that isn't here on all the stuff I'm going to show you today, and there's not very many things that are coming in a delivery. So I'm kind of set on gear. So on my top half when hiking, this is what I almost always wear a version of. That's a smart wool, merino wool short sleeve t-shirt. And over that I wear a sun hoodie. The one shown here is a Sahara sun hoodie from REI. That's usually what I wear. I have one other option, which I'm actually wearing right now. It's a little bit heavier and a little bit lower SPF, so I'm going back and forth on which of the 2 or 3 sun hoodies I have to wear. I will not be wearing an alpaca sun hoodie because I found that heated things up a bit too much. That's more layering than I really needed. So this is the hiking outfit. So what we have here is what I think of as my cold weather gear, or my layering system. The top part of it for the coldest hiking conditions, at least. Again, going from right to left. On the bottom we have a pair of Outdoor Research fleece gloves. They do a really nice job of keeping my hands warm. They don't do anything to protect me from moisture. The only thing that's missing from this layout are a pair of, I think they're polyester rain gloves that are designed really for use on motocross motorcycle rides that I have coming to me via Amazon. They arrive next week, so I'll have their mittens that are more like skiing over mittens for on top of the fleece gloves. Those should keep me plenty dry, and then the fleece will be able to keep me warm. Above that, I have a Patagonia R2 Tech Face fleece top, fleece jacket. I really like this jacket. It vents, again, air through the pockets when it starts to heat up. It's fairly lightweight. This will be layer number 3 in my layering system when hiking. Generally, over the top of that, I will only wear the REI Rainier rain jacket. If it gets really cold, then to that setup, over the fleece and under the rain jacket, I can add the 4 Claws puffy, which is to the left of the Patagonia jacket in this display. The puffy works really well, but when I add it to the layer along with the raincoat, it can get hot quick. So I'll be taking the puffy in case I get into dangerously cold weather conditions or for wearing around camp at night while the other stuff dries out and things like that. The puffy's nice because it's very lightweight and it can fold up into its own pocket, so it doesn't take up a lot of space. And it is very warm. It's filled with duck down, and it's much less expensive than a lot of the other options. And then just above that, you can see from a company I've never heard of called Rock Bros that I'm wearing a balaclava. The balaclava is basically in lieu of a skull cap or another covering on my head. I find does a much better job in really cold weather. And this one's adjustable in a couple of ways so that I can wear it as a balaclava, but I can also just wear it as a head wrap or as a neck gaiter. And then in the evenings, I'll even be sleeping in this to keep my hair in place and my earplugs in place and things like that. And then I'll toss in here last the one thing I forgot that I'll be wearing, and that is I have an Outdoors Research hiking cap that I'll wear either on top of the balaclava or in place of it when I don't need the balaclava. And I think that's, this is most now of the hiking gear that I've settled on. It's a little bit less than what I thought I might need, because my shakedown hikes showed me that even in 10-degree weather in the Midwest, I can hike in this gear and be just fine. In fact, if I get any more on than this, like if I add my alpaca hoodie to this mix, something else would have to stay home, because that's just too much heat in the end. About literally a half an hour or an hour into hiking, I was peeling off layers, even without carrying a pack and things like that. So I think this is the top warm layer, and the puffy layer in case it gets really cold of my hiking setup. And here I have my sleepwear setup and my camp clothes. So I am a big fan of getting out of my hiking clothes and into something dry and warm at the end of a day's hiking. The one time I made a mistake of not doing that was my first night on trail, 9 months ago now or so. When I got to the Hawk Mountain shelter, I stayed in my hiking clothes for too long. My body temperature dropped, and later on in the night I had cramps and shivering, something fierce. And so I have not since then made that mistake. So as soon as I get to camp and get a tent set up, I switch into this camp and sleeping wear setup. Again, from right to left, on the bottom I have a set of Zero shoes. They're very lightweight camp shoes. I know camp shoes some people think are a luxury, but I find I really like being able to let both my socks and my boots or shoes dry out in the evening, and also just let my feet relax and stretch out and breathe after a day's hiking. Next to that, I have a pair of alpaca wool compression socks that I got off a small vendor in North Utica, Illinois. It's a wonderful little alpaca shop by Starved Rock State Park, in case folks are ever in the area. They're nice because they're alpaca wool, so they're soft, and they have some antimicrobial qualities, and they're compression socks, so they kind of help keep circulation moving in my lower legs when I stop hiking at night. Above that, on the right, I have a pair of Columbia shorts. They're cotton. I know cotton's not something that I wear very much of. These are more overshorts for my sort of aesthetic comfort while walking around camp, because under that I wear the blue merino underwear top and merino underwear bottom from Task. That's T-A-S-C. They're very nice merino wool underwear. They're not very heavy, which is good for nighttime. They're nice and warm and soft, but I think it'd be kind of weird to walk around camp in just my long underwear, for me at least. And then next to that, I have the same balaclava from Rock Bros that I showed earlier. So when I bed down at night, really, I just take the shoes off, and then I have a pair of down booties that are black that aren't shown here, and I put those on at night inside my sleeping bag. And that is my entire sleepwear setup. I guess you could add in the earplugs that I wear if there's any amount of noise or conversation in camp near me. But I don't stay in shelters very often, especially if there's any activity going on at all there. I enjoy my tent and my privacy, and I sleep better that way. So earplugs are really all I ever need, and then only occasionally. Other than that, this sleepwear setup really is fairly similar to what I've used from my first day on trail 9 or 10 months ago. And it has always worked. It's fairly lightweight, and it definitely falls into the category of I don't fix what's not broken. So there's my sleepwear setup. I think you've now seen everything that I will be wearing, with the exception of the down booties at night and the polyester over mittens to be worn in the rain. I can't think of any other clothing I'll be taking with me. Oh, I'm sorry, with one exception. I take one duplicate clothing item with me, and that's an extra pair of the boot length Darn Tough hiking socks and the under socks to go with it. And just in case my feet get really wet during the day at some point, which is entirely possible on the AT. The next day I can put on a pair of nice warm dry socks and let the socks from the previous day dry out. They might be overkill since I have Gore-Tex covered boots this time, I don't know. But other than that, this is everything that I'm wearing. I think my whole apparel load comes down to about 6 or 7 pounds total. But you'll find that on my lighterpack.com page, along with listings about all of this clothing, and in as many cases as I can, there'll be a link to one of the various websites that I've used to buy all of these items. If anybody has any input on this part of the hiking gear kit that I have set up, that'd be great. I think that these choices will work well for me, but I don't know that, especially with regards to the cold weather part of the setup, because I have a feeling I'm going to be hiking in March in weather that's much colder than anything I've hiked in 20 or 30 years. So I'm definitely open to suggestions on that, and even along the way, suggestions, gear changes in this part of my kit are probably more likely among the cold weather gear than anything else in the setup that I have. So, having said all that, I guess once again this is Data saying happy trails to each of you.